Bacteria, or singular bacterium, are one of the two very small prokaryotic domains of life alongside archaea and live almost everywhere on Earth. They are unicellular, have no nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Some have cell walls, capsules, plasmids, and spores. Some are good, some are bad, and all of them love you. Bacterial taxonomy is based on MEP, morphology, metabolism, environment, and physiology. Best way to identify bacteria is gram staining of the cell wall. Gram-positive turns purple, and gram-negative turns red or orange. The difference is gram-positive cell wall is much thicker, and gram-negative cell wall is covered by two plasma membranes. An easy way to remember is PP for purple positive and ON for orange negative. Gram-negative has two bilayers around the cell wall, making it more resistant to antibiotics. This is what a bacterium cell looks like. The flagella moves the cell, pili gets stuck on surfaces and make the cell adhesive to the surface, just like your throat. Capsule is a polysaccharide layer protecting the cell from getting eaten. The peptidoglycan cell wall maintains the integrity of the cell and protects it from lysing. Plasma membrane regulates transport of material inside and outside of the cell. Ribosomes make protein, and the nucleoid, not nucleus, is DNA aggregate inside of the cell. Plasmids are their own DNA that replicate independently and have many functions, like making the cell antibiotic resistant. General morphology is divided into three. The first is rod or bacillus, the second is cocci or balls, and the third one is spiral. There are subcategories and mixtures of these like streptococci, staphylococci, if you've ever heard of MRSA, Vibrio, blastophore, as well as others. But morphology is not only used in identification, but also for naming. The nutritional types or metabolism of the bacteria are divided into three: energy, electrons, and carbon, or summarized EEC. For the energy, the first E, if the bacteria or the cell gets their energy from sun, it's a phototroph. If they get their energy from organic compounds, they're a chemotroph. For electron, if they get their electrons from organic compounds, they're organotrophs. And from inorganic compounds, they're called lithotrophs. Finally, for carbon, if they get their carbon from organic compounds, they're known as chemotrophs. And if they get it from carbon dioxide or bicarbonate, they're considered autotroph. For the environment they live in, it varies a lot. So there's pH, temperature, pressure, and salinity. First, let's start with temperature. They're divided to psychrophiles, mesophiles, thermophiles, and hyperthermophiles, with psychrophiles living in the coldest conditions and hyperthermophiles living up to 110 degrees Celsius, mesophiles living in meso meaning middle, and thermophiles warm temperatures but not super hot. As for pH, we have acidophiles living from pH 1 to 6, basophiles living from pH 7.5 to 11, and neutrophiles living somewhere in the middle where the pH is neutral. And finally, we have barophilic bacteria, where they live in environments with high pressures, such as hydrothermal vents. For their phylogeny, this is tricky, because bacteria are considered of the same phylum if they share 75% of genetic similarities based on 16S rRNA sequencing. About 70% of bacteria have not been cultured, unlike eukarya like us. Therefore, there are no specific rules that determine a bacteria phyla, but generally they're considered of the same species based on the same 75% rule. For reproduction, most reproduce via binary fission, where a cell divides into two identical daughter cells, just like mitosis but for bacteria, because of course there's no nucleus. Some produce endospores when conditions become harsh, like really acidic or really hot, or even methanol or alcohol. Spores are extremely dormant forms of bacteria that exhibit minimal metabolism, zero signs of life. Therefore, they're not technically considered reproductive, but we included it here. They can survive up to 10,000 years and survive ethanol, hence the 99.9% label on the hand sanitizer bottles. They start germinating into vegetative cells or normal cells when conditions are right. They also have sex by conjugation, which is transfer of genetic material by direct contact. This you can see here is a bridge they form to transfer their DNA. As I said earlier, they can be both good and bad. Some of the good bacteria are Lactobacillus genus that produces yogurt and our favorite drink, beer, and also prevents gut disease in kids and adults. They also supply the food chain because the herbivores we love to eat, like cows, get their cellulose broken down by bacteria, not their own guts. And bad bacteria are pathogens and parasites you hear in the news, like Clostridium difficile, E. coli O157A7, Bacillus anthracis, and Staph aureus, as well as others. Fun fact of the day, magnetotactic bacteria are a type of bacteria that have magnetic crystals in their organelles called magnetosomes that direct them towards the optimal oxygen environment based on the Earth's magnetic field. This happens even after they're dead.